Greetings in the best of salutations. That would be prayer, power, peace, patience, and prosperity. Really want to deal with something that is very serious, um, in regards to our feelings, our thoughts, our, our attitude, our language, and our activity. It seems as though that we have become accustomed to when one offers you an opportunity to do something that is improper or inappropriate. You go ahead on and participate in that activity in a demeaning, demeaning, degrading, derogatory, and disrespectful manner. It is says that the English Bible, that the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. What that's saying is that really you're dealing with righteous living in a meaningful life. Well, who is righteous? Righteous is a win-win situation. Who wants to live a meaningful life, which means people are trying to find a belonging and a place of value. That's why I try to promote the value of self-worth, trying to pull out that value that's in me and act on it, as well as the value in others. But I realize that there are adjustments that one has to make. And some have to make more adjustments than others. And some cannot to make the adjustment in a manner, in a way that will put them in a position of escaping any form that will degrade, demean, demise, even devalue and disrespect others at the expense of elevating their status. So we have opportunities here, and they call it the United States freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom from what fear. Opportunity is a direct correlation of opportunity. I mean, ownership is a direct correlation of opportunity. Let's be clear with that. Because when you own something, you can hire and bring in who you want to bring in to work with you or to be part of your mission, your goal, and accomplish your objective. And I think that's an obligation. That's an obligation. It's a responsibility. It shouldn't be seen as a burden. There are many people who escape certain countries, and then they will come and they just escaping old forms of oppression. But you don't want to escape old forms of oppression and be a part of new forms of oppression. People do that when they want to seek refuge, migration, immigration. People seeking new opportunity, and they embrace opportunity. And that's why I have 4 core values: that opportunity, expression, and appreciation. It is said that there come a time where people will be easily offended. Offense or offended is a trigger in a trap. And when you are trapped, there are triggers that goes off, that sends signals to your mind. And therefore, if it's not channeled properly, which means those signals, that energy is not channeled properly, then therefore you develop a retaliatory spirit. And then you retaliate. But at the same time, that which you are retaliating against is being or not being able to manage your feelings, your emotion, your thoughts, your attitude, your language, and therefore it leads to one's activity. Because we have been accustomed, many have become accustomed to that. So whom and what are we escaping from and running from? If it is oppression, and that which is oppressing people is ignorance. And ignorance is the result of hostility, as if there's nothing else to be learned. So we become clocked into this condition, or this conditioning of not being able to control our feelings, our emotions, our attitude, our thoughts, our attitude, our language, and our activity. So therefore, the adjustment becomes difficulty if another individual whom you are a party with, if he or she doesn't make, is not able to make the adjustments with him or herself, and then you come in and you aren't able to make the adjustment with yourself, then nobody is making the adjustment. So therefore, it sees now the importance of marriages and relationships, of coming in with one another. It is adjustment period that we all have to make. And then therefore there is cycles of development and cycles of life until complete maturity, as I will call it, the maturation process. And we look at the evolutionary process of the sperm mixed with ovum, and then comes out a child. Adjustments. We have to be prepared to make adjustments, because there are always hidden opportunities that's out there before us. Getting the dross off the goal, rediscovering who you really are. Because I realized that trial and error leads to personal discovery. The declaration of common humanity. The assignment is to reconnect the disconnected, common, mature, benevolent community from within. Because circumstances makes us other than ourselves. You become accustomed to, you're trying to escape any group of people try to escape any form of injustice, any form of oppression. They want to embrace new opportunity. So we must not overlook the opportunity that is readily available for us, and that new opportunity that is readily available for us is, in a sense, it is spiritual. And I ain't talking about nothing that is lofty. Spiritual, anything that remains in its natural form and natural state is spiritual. Our use of our faculties is spiritual. The spirit, and that's natural, but the spirit and the intent in which you use it, and that's been the challenge. So people have misused and abused their intellect, the spirit of their intellect. It has done it in a unnatural way. And they will know, people will know some things and want to retain it and hold it for themselves. And therefore someone else come and see that, then they corrupt what someone else wants to hold on to themselves. And therefore people become accustomed and entertained by knowledge of something that they cannot grasp. So therefore the contamination of that corruption is like poison. It keeps on spreading. So we must get the dross off the gold. So as we declare making a declaration and serves as a model, it is called a called out run. Huh? Saka, or when you rest, you realign, but it's really a calling out of the best that is in us all, because the root word for educate is to bring out that is from within. The purpose of one's heart is deep water, but one of understanding draws them out, because when you have balanced understanding speaks clearly. The motto in the message that shapes the mission for common humanity. It helps aid, assist in fulfilling our motto, which is communicating with precision, a clearer and more precise image to the world. So persistency. It is, of course, of action that is taken in spite of the difficulty or the opposition that I have with myself, with my feelings, with my emotions, with my thoughts, with my attitude, with my language, and with my activity. There is a song by a sister, can't recall the name, Don't Let It Go to Your Head. No, now that you know, but listen, which means that whatever it is that we have acquired, information, knowledge, prestige, power, don't let it go to your head, because that is arrogance. Difficulty, it says that out of difficulty comes ease. And in the middle of a storm, there is ease in the center, the core. So the opposition, the purposeful and principle-driven person is motivated with the best intentions, because there is an investment in my soul. There is an investment in me. There is an investment in you. And that's business. S.B. Fuller would know that. Says that you don't see, S.B. Fuller says they don't see no race problem. He says that all the black people just don't understand capitalism. But the task, the invest in the task, time equals task. The effort, the energy, and the nature of the message will ensure to bring about a policy of cooperation and trust for the best of the common, our common humanity that remains in us all, because people are only responding due to the extent and the damage and the injury that has been done to his or her humanity. Promoting the value of self-worth. The worth is in the degree of the difficulty, but not in the value. The late Robert Kennedy stated, the problem of power is how to achieve its responsible use rather than its irresponsible and indulgent use, but how to get men of power to live for the public rather than off the public. So it is a public health crisis that we're dealing with. Getting the dross off the gold. Dr. King wrote from his Birmingham Dwell addressing poverty and impunity. Listen, poverty, impunity, and what was recognized and accepted was as well as sanctioned when people stand up and protest to be legal. Citizen is associated with being civil in the city. Oh man. People are very uncomfortable restless, disgruntled, delusional, even resentful, dying while smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society. Getting the dross off the goal. Rules of engagement. Before the eyes can see, they must be temporarily incapable of tears and emotions. Too much emotion without logic must have the balance between the two. They must get out of the way of their emotion. Get out of the way of having too much. Must be balanced. We must be able to hear the truth. The truth is the cause that impacts the results of one's reality. Hear it, see it. Can you hear the truth? If it resonates with you, and possibly so. If there is a disease, a dis-ease, an unbalance, is it in the heart? We have to overcome the hurt, the pain, and the stress, because social stress leads to mental pain, and mental pain leads to physical harm. Before you can hear, rule engagement number 2, you must temporarily lose your sensitiveness and be coherent. That deals with self-control, controlling one's attitude. 3, before the voice can speak in one another's presence, it must have lost the power to wound. Gossip, backbiting, a challenge too. Many have become accustomed to that. When there is balanced understanding, speaks clearly. Before the soul or can stand on his own merit of honor or dignity and integrity in the presence of another, his feet must be washed in cleansing of God. But cleansing of the heart of the intellect. When knowledge is applied, it becomes intelligent, centering, grounding, bounding your burns. 5, before progress can be pursued, the mind must constantly be emptied out and renewed. 6, we must be incapable with our word. Your word speaks with integrity. Learn to say what you mean. Please avoid using words to speak against yourself. Our inner conversations that we have with ourselves in some strange way creates our circumstances. Do not hold yourself in self-contempt and judgment, meaning inferior position. We know that there are people that were charged with being inferior. Position gossip leading to division and fear that pertains to each other. Use the power of your words in the direction of the truth, which is the cause that affects your reality, as we learn to distinguish myths from reality. 7, do not take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their reality. When you are mature and secure with yourself as pertains to others, opinions and actions. You don't become a victim of needless suffering. 8, don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can and avoid misunderstanding. It says that the greatest distance between us all is a misunderstanding. Sadness and drama with this one agreement. You can sadness and drama, we understand this. If we can agree, we can completely transform our life. Saddest person, you know, is the person that is very unstable. Instability that makes him become very aggressive. Anything that he do, he wants to inflict harm and pain. Then we deal with drama, you know, in the Greek sense. Drama was designed, I know they call it Assyrian drama too as well. Some people call it associated with that. But needless to say, it wasn't just to, it was really, the audience was to reflect on the politics and whatever it is that's going on in the society, to deal with it. Makes you think about what is going on and what is transpiring. 9, always do your best. Your best will change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy instead of sick. Under any circumstances, do your best. Avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Boundaries and limitations. Getting the dross off the go. Rediscovering who you really are. Is a social construct by social groups who define boundaries with separate people, places, things to departments of classification. It generally brings about the feelings of exclusivity among the group. Exclusivity is defined as a state of being limited or hard to access. Surely, in a capitalist society, we want access to capital. What is the key here is accessibility. Accessibility designed to give you options, alternative solutions. Want to offer mature solutions to immature problems. The benefit, the benefit, the benefit, the benefit, the benefit, the merciful, the benefit as a benefit. We are all here as a benefit, not to exploit each other. So those options must be clearly understood. We notice the thinking of a people who control and try to minimize another people's options at the expense of maximizing their options. They allow the means by which we live to outdistance the ends for which we live, minimizing the maximum of others that they have to offer. All we have to do is look at any field of play that is dominated or controlled, I should say, by this pertains to this exclusive group of people. And once others get in there, they see that that wasn't the case. So therefore, we're dealing with something that is very foreign, really, and hypocritical of a people. So option must be clearly understood, and therefore People must see the options or the opportunity that is readily available, that it is to be taken advantage of in a sense of, but you know, people speak from the vantage point, from their own vantage point. But I'm talking about an advantage from an advantage point, whereas the direction and the aim and the purpose where you want to go and the goal you want to achieve. Access that which is inside of you when it comes to feelings, thoughts. Manage them, manage them. Concentrate, zero in, because all that has been in this, the best body of knowledge is creation, and all that has been created. It's like, it's good. It's just the manner and way in which we use the thing. Just the manner and way in which we use it. For example, a parent to a child, education to a student, hope to hopeless, yes, help to helpless, also likened to a ramp to those who are unable to walk up the stairs entry. When group boundaries are considered, when we deal with group boundaries, it is likened unto, once again, if you are of a certain status in life, there is boundaries that are boundary lines that are drawn, that a certain class of people that you are not going to forbid at best, preventing people to come in. It's like a way of life. You don't want anyone to come in and to interrupt your way of life or your newfound status gain that you have made. Adjustment, man, adjustment. It is said that 97% of the people of the world are either conformists, integrationists, or assimilationists. Leaves 3% left to their own independence. That they are the exclusive club. When you can't penetrate the boundaries when it comes to status relations, then you start to, feel as though that you are being ineffective. And if any boundaries that needs to be penetrated is through communication, the manner and way in which we communicate, the manner and way in which we interact. They must be effective, because there is no time to waste. This exclusive club feel as though they will not be absorbed by new initiate or convert due to the fact that their infrastructure or of a social economic fortress is insulated enough that it will protect them from infiltration and contamination. One important factor in that boundaries are iconic and symbolic barriers are limitations of the social group that constructed them. Booker T. Washington theory of the consensus of 1895, Atlanta, the thing that was uppermost in his mind was the desire to say something that would cement the friendship of the races and bring a hearty cooperation between them. His speech was intended to appeal to, in doing so, it became compelled to the consensus. In doing so, it will refer to as the Atlanta Compromise. Washington uniting reality, humanitarianism, concerns in a plausible and optimistic way, which was a tactic for both whites and blacks Also not allowing the grievances of the two races to become overshadowed by the opportunity, economic opportunity to be given by way of assistance as well as to be earned before it could be given to others other than those who are right among living in America. Not to those who are on the outside, but for those who are right there among. Mr. Washington assured the whites, them that the families will be surrounded by the most patient, faithful, law-abiding, unresentful people the world ever known. Why would he say that? That's the key. Because if you can charge a people of being inferior and went about trying to dehumanize them, but yet at the same time, they're still trying to prove not so much their loyalty to you, not so much. I'm not saying that's not the case. We know that there's probably so, but they're trying to prove that they are skilled and of value and are importance to themselves. Who has time to have resentment? Huh? Nobody has time for that. But what happened, the trick is that we are through the misuse probably of our talents, our skills and resources, that we turn that resentment inwardly and it becomes self-hatred because it's not has been channeled properly. So Booker T. Washington said all things are purely social. I'm on to that. So I'm just, you know. So let's look at. I'm gonna backtrack again. The black population was in consensus with the whites for the reasons that was purely economic. Isn't that evident? Yeah. You don't get individuals who have raised their status in life to interact with other individuals that are of a different racial background if they didn't have the economics to interact with them. You think about it, purely economic. But he or she who everything is out of not everything, but it's economic necessities. You come together, economic necessity. He or she who controls the economics of the relationship when it comes to economics determines the status of that relationship. If that makes sense to you. Washington wanted to be given consideration. Huh? Consider the benevolence, the common mature benevolent community, the benevolent as a benefit above immigrants. Huh? Don't underestimate Booker T. Washington. Trust me. Very tactical, very strategic, a strategic brother, man. So the same or even the attitude still exists among blacks today. All things are purely social. We can as separate as we are talking about separate fingers, yet one hand as the hand in all things are essential. Can't separate the fingers from the hands. They are essential when it comes to what? Mutual progress. So what was Washington appealing to? So Washington was appealing to the whites' sense of pride and pushing the pride for change. Pride goes before the fall. Arrogance, haughty spirit for change, and change is a product of human effort. In the treatment of blacks, it offered optimism where there was little. That's man, it's bad dude, man. Offering optimism because it is for the optimum health. As I stated earlier about the public health crisis, when you talk about a community that's in crisis, when it comes to getting the draws off the goal, it is for optimum health. It is to elevate, the community needs to be heighten the serenity and lower the stress. However, Marcus Garvey was advocating for racial pride of blacks uniting economic cooperation as a religious philosophy. Huh? You distinguish the difference between the two now. Unto a international industry. Washington curriculum was built on the premise that learning should stem from personal experience. Washington said, in order for blacks and whites to live together, must coexist symbolically. He said symbolically. He said, anything done of real value for blacks, it must be done to benefit whites that surround them. So anything that we do in life, let's transition from that. Let's build on that. It must benefit the surroundings that you live, the circumstances in which you live. That means your behavior, how you behave. That's why one must become a model. I say I'm a model for self-improvement. If whites were not benefited, the gains made by blacks would hold no value. You know how it is in the field, the celebrity athletic field. You know, if you ain't gonna benefit the white man, you have no value. But yet we do come in this existence of value, and we have to be aware of that value, as the seed of potential has been sowed in us, and that we must invest in our soul, invest in business. This is a serious matter, man, when we getting the dross off the gold, man, rediscovering who you really are. Discovering who I really am. A living organism that is always evolving through stages and cycles of development. The growth is corresponding to the structural development of one's life. How you structure your feelings, how you manage your thoughts, or structure your thoughts, our attitude, our communication, and our actions. Maybe someone wants to control that, and probably is, whereas that maybe someone wants you to grow up, but they don't want you to mature. So you become so dependent on them. Malcolm said that. These people, man, left something for us to build on, but we have to build on it, but don't be stuck back in there, because the past is just a reference point. It's not a place of residence. So we be also talking about culture. Dr. Seismo said culture, we have to take a very serious look at culture when it becomes destructive. Culture is dynamic, it always changes. We know culture comes from the word agriculture. Chicken Diop says that when the rain falls from the sky, hit the ground and produce a crop somewhere, he said it must be a God somewhere. So he says that which we call God is Hungarian in thought. Then we deal with the Hungarian Revolution in Budapest. I know it's a different area, different part of the country, but yet we can learn from them that those who didn't work and those who did work, who had the money, they supported those who didn't work because they had a common cause, a common purpose, and therefore there was a change of power. There was a change. There was a change. Because they made, as I stated earlier, there was an adjustment that had to be made to get the jaws off the gold, get the pus off the bump. The Brother Bilal would say, get the pus off the bump. The intensity, man, in order to serve, you must first be honest. So we have to deal with these disorders, man. Limitations is defined. Is a restriction that has been imposed on a person that cannot exceed the value. That's slavery. That's slavery. Exceed the value placed on a person unless the demand is great, unless the demand great than the value. Demand is greater than the value of that person becomes greater. Who is greatest among you, if I may use that, in rank and power and prestige? Only those who are great is best won by way of virtue. Restricting flaw, an advantage or weakness in somebody or someone leads to a drawback. When you exploit one's weakness, when we continue to exploit each other's weakness, it is a drawback. It goes back to a primitive state, leads to a drawback of falling short, of developing a feeling of inadequacy. Am I good enough? But does limitations include money, time, personnel, tools, technique, ability, mobility, reliability, credibility, and a sociability? You think on that. And getting the dross off the goal, we want to create a safe and trusting environment, overcoming negative perception and unhealthy perspectives, creating non-judgmental rapport, attentively understanding body and verbal gestures and language. Look for positive reinforcements as building blocks. Look to share common experience and interests. Talk about the delivery of one's decisions, making process, and how one came to be where we are today and where you are today. Talk about one's goals, one's dreams, one's aspirations, one's values, one's virtues. Listen and pay attention to one's cues. Be honest with ourselves and without challenges. Provide concrete solutions. Well, how can you provide concrete solutions to abstract problems? Yes, try to get to know each other at a different level. We want to try to get to know each other at a different level. As a result, become a more understanding person, become a more tolerant person, become a more confident person, and we become more respectful person. Getting the dross off the goal. Rediscovering who you really are. The leg represents support as it pertains to what one says and thinks when it comes to the theme, and understanding the teachings of Common Humanity Mission Incorporated is to reclaim social solidarity. Disrespect comes about when your solidarity is not organized. But when one's solidarity is organized, they have no choice, or whoever they is have no choice but to respect you. And they will proceed to interact or come at you with caution. Anxiety disorder, trauma, stress related disorder. Anxiety disorder, a group of illness that causes constant fear and worry, characterized by sudden feeling of worry, fear, and restlessness. Post-traumatic, a mental health condition that develops following a traumatic event characterized by intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts. That which invades your thoughts, your thinking, because vision stems from the source of one's thinking. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that about an incident, something that you are holding on to, reoccurring. The distress is a reoccurring of the stress and the anxiety, vacillating up and down. Flashback, a drawback, as I said earlier. I cannot live in the past. I think sometime in my life that was like a blur. And what I dim as living a particular lifestyle, it's gone. I can't get it back. And I am trying to overcome regret and carrying the burden of disappointment, avoidance of similar situations. Remember, we have to be prepared to make the adjustment. Adjustment period. That's what that means, adjustment period. Cycles of growth and development. Depressive disorders and bipolar disorders. Mental health disorder, having episode of psychological depression. You know, some say psychological, brother Naim Akbar talked about that, the soul. There is a disease in the heart, the soul. The soul, the natives would say, is through the eye. That is associated with perception. What we see can psychologically depress us. Yes, this bipolar, this totemism, you know, polar totemism. I think John G. Jackson talks about that. Not in the mental sense, but in a sense of animals on heads. You know, it's like our animal instinct that we have to control. It's the struggle. You know, there was a struggle that one was wrestling with. You know, this control. You're vacillating up and down. You know, you buy two polar. Polar is associated with a polar bear, but it's also in a cold climate, or is associated with being polarized. Huh? A serious mental illness characterized, remember, people are characterized by which they are trying to escape from. Huh? Mood swings. They can include extreme excitement and episodes of extreme depressive feelings. Damn, no balance. So I try to find time to work it out through communication. I may come into an environment that I see that I don't like, but then when I get in a little place, a space where I am comfortable with, I try to balance it out the best way I can. I make adjustments the best way I can with myself and with my environment, but not in a form that I become so numb, so desensitized that any environment that I am, that I have become, that I accepted, become accustomed to that environment, when I know that the environment is not conducive for growth and development, and it's not healthy, that it is toxic rather than medicinal. It is stressful rather than serene. Personality disorder. In autism perspective, the personality disorder goes as such. It is a mental disorder characterized by instability in mood. The instability in our mood. There is no stable. We cannot manage it or control it. The behavior and the manner and way in which we function. Yes. And much more. Texts are called To be a part of this, 301-383-7671 and receive the Zoom link. Common Humanity Mission Incorporated is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation that needs your support. Donate to the Cash App, CH Mission is the Cash App. Send out DNA, brother. Get the draws off the gold. Think about how we evolved, came into this plane existence. Social, culture, science, technology, agriculture, industry. The industrious people, agriculture, technology. We're promoters, cultivators, communicators. We have opportunity to express appreciation for this life existence. What to expect, you would be inspired, you would be informed, you would be enlightened, you would be encouraged, and you would be empowered. If you think you are too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. The Dalai Lama. Sojourner Truth says, someone says, Sojourner Truth, we kill no more, you about a flea bite. She said, the Lord willing, I keep you scratching. Common Humanity Mission to communicating a clearer image to the world. Who we are and what we do. We are a community. Common Humanity Mission, utilizing the social literacy life skills to develop individual, family, and serving any organization the best that we can to help facilitate maturation process to becoming a social practitioner or a practitioner of social maturity. Providing a variety of ways to help assist individuals and families going through social health crisis, illness, and other setbacks. Our service to the people, we service menu of services, root cause analysis, character resolve, conflict resolution, conciliatory healing, esteem building, students of matriculation, abandoned, neglected, rejected, dejected, and despised, ex-offenders, homelessness, as well as aging. Social health model framework, the task is in understanding. The effort is in tolerance, time is in temperament, the energy is in confidence, the nature is in respect. Perceived susceptibility, advantages and disadvantages, perceived severity, health motivation, perceived benefits, open-mindedness, closed-mindedness, narrow-mindedness, perceived barriers. In the middle is the filter that one goes through, and these will be the results on the right-hand side. Restoring social credibility, resulting in readdressing diversification of one's aspiration, resulting in revising social coherency, resulting in replenishing one's continuity when it comes to flows and blockages and limitations and accomplishments, and resulting into reclaiming social solidarity. Our 5-star approach is progressive, universal, holistic, comprehensive, and conscientious. Our 5-star approach is to restore, redress, revive, replenish, and reclaim the common mature benevolent community and our feelings, our thoughts, our language, and our actions. Thoughts, attitude, language, and action. In getting the draws off the goal, we hope to be resolving and addressing 5 learning disabilities. Discrepancy, lack of compatibility prevents us from learning how to reason from the premise, reason with each other sensibly and respectably. This indifferences lacking of importance of significance. It deals with the principle of self-acceptance. That is your own uniqueness. We're perfect in our own uniqueness. The challenge is to live with yourself and respect yourself. Be happy with yourself and love yourself by the way you treat yourself, as well as the way you treat others, regardless of their status in life. That's the discrepancy that we have to overcome. The indifferences, once again, as I go back and forth, each blade of grass is different. So it doesn't it doesn't depreciate, it appreciates its existence in itself. So we too should appreciate ourselves. And sure, yes, we have to become more comfortable with ourselves in the manner and way in which we create an environment that is that comfort others, not at the expense that that person becomes so comfortable that he or she does not want to grow, develop, evolve, and mature. So we must become aware of our task, our effort, time, our energy, our nature. It is a obligation and a duty wherein overcoming the 5 learning disabilities, the individual families become more understanding of each other, become more tolerant of each other. We become more understanding when it comes to controlling our attitude and our temperament, our confidence, become more respectful. As individuals become more understanding, they know the importance of restoring the credibility, because the integrity is your word. Become more tolerant, they know the importance of readdressing social diversity. Control their attitude, they know the importance of revising social coherency. When they display more confidence, becoming more effective communicators, they replenish the social continuity, become more respectful. It creates a reclaiming social solidarity. Our mission, our motto, and our mandate. Our mission is to promote the value of self-worth. Our motto is to communicate a clear image to the world. Our mandate is to cultivate the light of knowledge that is in us all. By ways we communicate, we administrate, we facilitate, we coordinate, we aggregate, and we perpetuate. It must be progressive, it must be universal, holistic, comprehensive, conscientiously, that's conscious. Keys to success: the need meeting period is designed to readdress the incentives of one's motive of intent, that we become properly motivated in furthering the value of becoming reacquainted with ourselves. The issue resolving period is designed to address the initiatives of one's determination of intent, that we expand the image of our worldview, of properly further becoming reacquainted with ourselves. Problem solving period is designed to address the influences, one's environmental influences, the intent, that devices won't hinder nor prevent us from properly reasoning from the premise of conversation and further becoming reacquainted with ourselves. The question and to the answer period is designed to address the indicators of one's directives of intent that by virtue we would properly further becoming reacquainted with ourselves. Our problem-solving skills, we develop problem-solving skills, strengthen our problem-solving skills, maturity, responsibility, and wisdom. One thing I realized, I think that is associated with the word wisdom itself, is that we don't want to make a mockery of the time that we had on this plane of existence. And be sure to be able to accept correction. And I think that's the challenge for many of us who become so arrogant that we are unwilling to accept correction. For no one has a monopoly on intelligence, you know. Needless to say, a pessimist sees that an opportunity, pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity, and the optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. Problem solving builds self-determination skills such as goal setting, decision making, self-advocacy. Yes. There's a variety of problem-solving processes, but each process consists of a series of steps: identifying the problem, searching for a possible solution, selecting the most optimal solution, and implementing a possible solution. It is useful to view problem solving as a cycle, because sometimes a problem needs several attempts to solve it, or the problem changes. The diagram below shows 7 steps. You identify, you evaluate, you explore, you look for alternatives, you set goals, you select, and you implement. Yes. 4-point platform, which we will be speaking from: academic freedom. Everybody want a quality academic education. Intellectual independence / interdependence. Financial stability and spiritual understanding. We want to preserve the relationships that we have with this universe, this plane of existence, and be a good steward of it, as well as to preserve the relationship with our body, our mind, our soul, our spirit. Spiritual understanding. Converting all that to a building block of optimum health, as well as wealth. We preserve that right. It says in the Constitution that all men are created equal. And they preserve that right. Surely we have that right because we have been endowed by a creator. Promoting the value of self-worth to specific populations. student of matriculation, the abandoned, the neglected, the homeless population, the ex-offender, and aging / elder. And the beautiful thing to see the children smiling in relationship one with another. Then we see the brother that is on the street there. And there is another type of homelessness that one wants to deal with. It's called psychological homelessness. Then we see the brother with his hands on his head as he is really become frustrated and overwhelmed by whatever feelings of emotion, thoughts of attitude, whatever it is that he has on his mind. Very challenging indeed. Then we see the elder, look like he may be looking at a computer or something in his hand, but he's engaging. There are many elders who just they engage in their own way, but this technology, man, you must engage it and learn it. Because I'm not saying it's in the DNA. It's in our DNA. All of it is. That's how it came into existence. So I realized that there are 3 illnesses: mental suicide, emotional homicide, and spiritual genocides we cut through the life force. That which divides us on a daily basis is racism, sexism, classism, any ism. Here's the esteem building pyramid of knowledge: success, extension, awareness, potential, procedure, policy, description, and prescription. The purpose of the success is the strength. Purpose at the top is another piece of the building, of a piece of the bread, if I may use it, of wealth, sandwiched between ascension, awareness, potential, procedure, policy, description, and prescription. The proper diagnosis, prescription, describing as they hold each other up. So we need to hold each other. There would be no need for low self-esteem if we hold each other up in high or vacant esteem. So what we're marketing is the acceptance of facts, lack of prejudice, self-fulfillment, problem-solving, spontaneity, creativity, morality. We visualize it, we conceptualize it, contextualize it, scripture. For future generations, down, document it, then we contextualize it, becomes historical context. Then we actualize it, which means we must live out the vision, the concept, the text that which is written, historical perspective, actualize, dynamics, boom, the explosion of marketing, accepting the facts, lack of prejudice, self-fulfillment, problem solving, spontaneity, creativity, and morality. And getting the dross off the gold, rediscovering who you really are. You want to plant seeds of truth, hope, success, and love. It will come back to you in abundance. This is the law of nature. Analyzing the attitude, behavior, pattern, way, and the balance. So we come in a spirit of cooperation and getting the dross off the gold. See, I realize that wisdom brings rewards, mockery brings stuff. Unity is stronger than diversity. Oneness is stronger than conflict. Moving from victim to being victorious. Getting the dross off the gold, rediscovering who you really are, analyzing attitude, behavior, patterns, way, and the balance. So there is a scientific dictum that states that everything that exists in some amount, it can be measured. Mathematics. We come in the spirit of not only coordination, but cooperation with coordination. Coordinating the energy, synergizing the energy. It is true that we do not recognize among ourselves our measurements of importance are generally faulty and speak mainly to superficiality of life. Human experience is a fragile as we move from victim to victorious. Come in the spirit of resilience, because resiliency is the author of success. Biologically, in cooperation with sperm cells, we exist. And anything that has taken shape or taken form will always be remembered. The individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his own individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of humanity. Dr. King. One day our nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. With this faith, we'll be able to transforming power, the jangling discourse, the discontent that we have of our nation into a beautiful sympathy of brother, sister, family. So, what are some of the categories of distorted automatic thoughts that one makes? Unfair comparison, labeling, catastrophizing or catastrophizing, mind reading, blaming, personality, should, dichotomous thinking, overgeneralizing, what if, inability to disconfirm, judgment, focus. I'll define one or two of them. Judgment, focus. You view yourself or others and events in terms of evaluations as good or bad or superior, inferior, rather than simply describing, accepting, or understanding. You are continually measuring yourself and others according to arbitrary standards and finding that you and others fall short. You are focused on the judgments of others as well as your own judgment of yourself. I didn't perform well in college, or if I take up tennis, I won't do well. Or look how successful she is. I am not successful. I have challenges in this field of play. Let's look at shoulds. You interpret events in terms of how things should be rather than simply focus on what is. I should do well. If I don't, then I'm a failure. Labeling. You are assigning global negative traits to yourself and others. I am undesirable, or he's a rotten person. These are some of the distorted automatic thoughts that has been programmed in humans. And maybe humans are naturally resisting these programming thoughts, but they may be unconscious because it is not organized to a point, whereas that it could be addressed and treated, but not in the way that is being addressed and treated, whereas that you don't get to the root cause of it, and therefore it furthers the exploitation of it. And therefore, by not being able to overcome it, it leads to self-hatred. Catastrophize. One more. You believe that what has happened or will happen will be so awful and unbearable that you won't be able to stand it. It will be terrible if I fail. Social, cultural, science, technology, agriculture, industry, promoter, cultivators, communicators. The opportunity to express appreciation for our common humanity is the mission. It's the incorporated mission. One more I must share, automatic thoughts, is unfair comparison. You interpret events in terms of standards that are unrealistic. For example, you focus primarily on others who do better than you and find yourself inferior in the comparison. She's more successful than I, or others did better than I on the test. A challenge of mine as well. Getting the dross off the goal. Rediscovering who you really are. We have primarily on this panel or this gathering Dennis Star Winkler, licensed clinician, Marcus Sankofa Nix, well as Dennis is a PhD candidate as well. And Marcus Nix, master's in history, changing the narrative. Also, Dennis took something in regards to spiritual, psychological integration to some degree. I think pastoral counseling as well. Paul Thompson, spiritual teacher, principles and laws, deals with numerology. Also, participated in the field of marketing for a number of years. He also keeps his emotions under wraps, managing well. There's much more things that can be said about Brother Paul. Then we have Brother William Mary, minologist disease, as he called and do 45 years, I think, entrepreneur. All the business people, all our teachers, all are sincere in what they say and what they do. Just trying to coordinate the energy where it can become synergized, that we get draws off to go finding out who we really are, because I have identified that we are a living organism. So it will be a 4-week session gathering, starting the 2nd, I believe it is. Make sure I get the time, the date right. The date right. Wednesday. Make sure I get the time right. Yes. June 2nd, 8:30. 4 weeks. Second, the 16th. 2nd, the 9th, 16th, and 23rd. Getting the dross off the goal, finding out who we really are. Tune in. Be a part. Help us as we help you and as we help aid and assist each other. As it pertains to this public health crisis. A community that is in crisis. A people that are going through challenges, disorders, challenges, feeling of inadequacy, alienation, indifferences, discrepancy. Makes them become delusional, disoriented, disgruntled, disrespectful. Pay it forward. Things to remember. Self-evaluating self is inspiring. The inspiration. Friends helping friends is informing or informative. Friends have to inform each other on what's ahead, or what to expect, what to look out for. Families housing families is enriching as well as organizations helping organizations is encouraging. Nations helping nations is empowering. You are equipped and prepared to make the adjustments. That's why we are here. There was a pledge that humanity says that we must contribute to. One, there is no family without individual, the value of family and individual concerns. There's no community without family, the value of community concerns. 3, there is no country without community, the value of country concerns. There is no environment without the spiritual wisdom of discipline that it brings the value of environmental concerns. There is no joy without the happiness that it brings, the value of joy and happiness concerns. There would be no me without you, the value of you and me concerns. Thank you. Getting the dross off the goal. Finding out who you really are. Getting the dross off the goal. Finding out who you really are. It is in our DNA. June 2nd, 8:30, every Wednesday. The next one will be the 9th, 8:30, 16th, 23rd, 8:30. Zoom. Talk to you. Yeah, if it didn't happen, it didn't happen. So, anxiety.